When 65-year-old Alhaji Ibrahim Yahaya gave his daughter's hand in marriage to a Mina-based businessman on January 29, 2021, he never imagined he was sealing her fate with an early death. On March 23, 2021, 19-year-old newlywed Fatima Aliyu was brutally murdered just 7 weeks after her wedding to 45-year-old Alhaji Aliyu Abdullahi. The perpetrator, her co-wife, Amina Aliyu, a woman who had welcomed her with open arms like a newfound sister. What could drive someone who was like a sister to commit such a monstrous act? Was it hatred, jealousy, or had her warmth been a facade all this time? Fatima didn't just die. She was brutally beaten, her body set on fire, and left to burn in her own home. The horrific act left an entire community in mourning and a grieving father crying out for justice. Born in 2002, Fatima was described as peaceful and well-behaved. She was an indigene of Katsina and resided in the Sabuwar Ungwa area of Katsina metropolis. Fatima met her husband, Aliyu Abdullahi, a businessman dealing in wholesale foodstuffs at Mina's main market, at a friend's wedding in Katsina. The pair fell in love, and despite the age difference and Aliyu being already married, a practice permitted in Islam, he desired Fatima as his second wife. Their union was formalized, and by all accounts, Aliyu's 24-year-old first wife, Amina, who had been married to him since 2015 and was pregnant at the time, seemed to accept the new marriage without any issues. There are women who lose their minds the moment they learn their husband is considering a second wife. They will fight tooth and nail, throwing tantrums and causing chaos just to stop that marriage from happening. But not Amina. She was calm, composed, even welcoming. She didn't protest or reject the idea of a new wife. In fact, she went out of her way to welcome Fatima warmly and make her feel at home. There was no reason to suspect trouble between the two women. There were no fights, no disagreements, just an understanding that every polygamist dreams of, a peaceful home. But some kinds of peace can be deceptive though, and this harmony wouldn't last. To maintain peace and balance, Fatima and Amina lived in separate houses within the same compound, a common practice in Nigeria to reduce tensions in polygamous households. Their homes were separated by a gate, ensuring the women had their own spaces. On the morning of March 23, 2021, Fatima had seen her husband off to work and later had a long phone conversation with her brother, Jamilu, between 11 a.m. and 12 p.m. In fact, her last WhatsApp status update was at 11:52 a.m., a snapshot of her final moments of peace. Between 1 and 2 p.m., Amina, along with her relatives, her sister Aisha Mohammed, and two younger family members, Zainab Aliyu and Fauzia Rabiu, stormed Fatima's apartment. Before entering, Amina had sent the house help and security guards on errands and blasted loud music to muffle any sounds of what was about to unfold. Fatima, unsuspectingly, let them in. However, when the trouble began, she quickly called her sister, Mariam, who also lived in Mina, asking her to quickly come over. There was trouble. Sadly, Mariam didn't make it in time. Amina and her sister Aisha viciously attacked Fatima, beating her mercilessly. A wooden pestle was used to strike the fatal blow to her head, leaving her unconscious on the kitchen floor. The two minors, Zainab and Fauzia, then dragged Fatima's body into the living room. Amina and Aisha set a shirt on fire and threw it on Fatima's body, attempting to burn her remains and conceal their crime. They locked the door and retreated back to Amina's side of the compound. I just can't help but wonder how evil can flow so freely within one family. Siblings who conspired together to take the life of an innocent woman. Not one of them hesitated. Not one of them stood up and said, "This isn't right. We shouldn't do this." Instead, they all come together, agreeing to carry out this monstrous act without any second thought. What does that say about the kind of family they come from? A family of psychos? The lack of any moral compass between them speaks volumes. Anyways, let's continue. So minutes later, neighbors noticed smoke coming from the house and called the Niger State Fire Service, that's the firefighters, fearing there was a fire outbreak in the house. When the firefighters arrived, Amina and her accomplices tried to prevent them from entering, but their resistance only raised suspicions. After a heated argument, the firefighters gained access to the house. Inside, they found Fatima's body lying in a pool of blood, parts of her body burned. The sight was harrowing, a young woman's life brutally extinguished. By 3 p.m., Alhaji Aliyu Abdullahi received a call that his house was on fire. Rushing home from Kure Market, he arrived to find no fire, but instead, the lifeless body of the wife he had kissed goodbye just hours earlier. The case was reported to the Niger State Police Command, and Amina, who was nursing her 3-week-old baby at the time, was immediately arrested as a prime suspect. Her 3 accomplices were also taken into custody. The wooden pestle used in the attack was recovered as evidence. The suspects were charged with conspiracy and culpable homicide. The question now is, what could have sparked such a drastic change in Amina's behavior? What could have driven her to commit such a horrific act against someone she once embraced as a sister? Well, the answer isn't all that surprising. It's the typical response you'd expect from someone who was struggling with the thought of their husband taking another wife, a reaction Amina had hidden under a facade of calmness until it became impossible to ignore any longer. According to the husband, Alhaji Aliyu, jealousy was likely the motive. He had promised to sponsor Fatima's Umrah pilgrimage that year, a gesture that may have sparked resentment in Amina, who had already made the sacred journey multiple times with him. But Aliyu's suspicions ran even deeper. He alleged that Amina might have been responsible for the mysterious death of his 2 daughters from a previous marriage in a 2018 fire, suggesting a chilling pattern of violence. For Malam Yahaya Khalifa, Fatima's father, the pain is unbearable. His daughter wasn't just a victim, she was his pride, his joy, and a peaceful soul who deserved so much more. He vividly recalled the moment his other daughter, Mariam, called in tears to break the news of Fatima's death just after Zuhur prayers. He has been vocal in his demand for justice, quoting the Quran, "A life for a life." Forgiveness, he said, was out of the question. If it was an accident or unintentional manslaughter, that is a different issue. But you beat my daughter to death and set her body ablaze. That I will never forgive, he declared, his voice breaking. Despite his financial limitations, he remains hopeful that the legal process will bring the perpetrators to justice. Though justice was delayed, it wasn't denied. The trial, which began at Minna Chief Magistrate Court, was later transferred to the High Court. During the proceedings, which spanned 3 years, witnesses, including the husband, testified about the horrific crime. The court found the prosecution had proven its case beyond a reasonable doubt. On January 17, 2025, the Minna High Court sentenced Amina Aliyu and her sister Aisha Mohammed to death by hanging for the brutal murder of Fatima. Zainab, who was a minor at the time of the crime, was sentenced to life imprisonment. The tragic death of Fatima Aliyu highlights the devastating consequences of jealousy and unresolved conflict within polygamous marriages. She was laid to rest on March 24, 2021 in her hometown of Katsina at her parents' request. May Allah forgive her shortcomings. So what are your thoughts on polygamy? Can it ever truly work, or does it inevitably lead to complications like jealousy and conflict? I'd love to know your opinions in the comments. Would you prefer your husband stepping out on you with side chicks, or would you rather welcome a legally married co-wife into the picture? Which will you choose and why? Please share this video to raise awareness, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel for more true crime cases. Thanks for watching and see you in my next video. Bye.